just email me the link, and then I'll send a link to the 4 students that are missing. Okay. All right, so this is your first lab for 2357. First, let's talk about anatomy lab, get you oriented to it, have that green lab schedule out. Anatomy lab, again, this is a college lab science classes, and for those who have never taken a college lab science class, it is 2 classes in one. You get 1 grade, 4 units for this class, but there are 2 different portions with completely different schedules. So this is your lab schedule. You're going to go with the pink schedule for lecture. Everybody got that? The dates for the exams are accurate on that pink sheet for lecture exams. Everybody got that? Also, if you go to the syllabus in Canvas, those are the correct exam dates. I totally get this course ready for Canvas in the spring. Got it? So you got an announcement today for the week 3 lecture PowerPoint, and it references the old date for lecture exam 1. Ignore that. I'm not going to go through it and redo it. Everybody got it? I'm not going to redo the PowerPoints. And the PowerPoints will say the old dates. The correct lecture exam dates are on the pink lecture schedule and in the syllabus under Canvas. Are we clear? Because I had to answer an email about that during lunch. All right, so I'm just trying to hold down how many emails I got to answer. Okay? But this is your correct one, and you can see that I have it with lab canceled last week because I was sick. Okay? Does everybody see that? The reason why I'm able to do that is because I teach the Monday, Wednesday section. I used to teach Tuesday, Thursday, and over the course of the semester, there are no holidays on Tuesday or Thursday. There is always an early holiday on Monday. In the fall, it's Labor Day. In the spring, it's President's Day for Monday. So Monday always goes a week less, week behind. Are you following me? It's really important for all the anatomy lab sections to be in sync. And the reason why it's important is that later on, I'll put it on the whiteboard in probably next week. But we have an open lab in here on Fridays and Saturdays for studying for lab exams, which is really important. I'll get to in just a little bit why. Well, the Cal Poly teaching assistants, and I think we still have one gal who is still a Hancock student who works it as well. It's a lot easier for them because they're undergraduates if all the sections are in sync, so that they're having to review for the students the same organ systems. You following me? Well, I was able to catch up with Mondays by abbreviating what we do with the muscles. And for your schedule, it's on September 20th. This is for all the other lab sections and would have been for you originally if we didn't miss last week, covered over 2 weeks. For Monday lab, I covered over 1. And now because we missed last week, I'm going to do the same thing for you. Now that seems like it's bad news to cover 2 weeks in just 1 week. Well, the good news is I trim what you have to know for that lab exam about 2/3. So that's why it's fair. It's fair for all the Tuesday, Thursday labs that don't have to abbreviate. It's not as difficult as it is for Tuesday, Thursday labs, but you have to cover it in 1 week. Are we clear? So that's why it was easy for me to make this adjustment for your lab. It's okay, we're gonna start a week later. You guys are behind Monday lab now for another less than 2 weeks. Because in week 4, this is week 2. In week 4 is Labor Day. Monday lab won't have lab, you will, and you'll catch up and be ahead of, or caught up to Monday lab. Are we clear? Then, in week 6, on September 20th, when we cover the muscle system in one lab, we catch up with everybody. And before we get to the rest of all those models of organ systems, all the labs will be in sync. Are we clear on the rationale? Okay. All right. First of all, let's talk briefly about how it is that you succeed in this class. Well, you succeed by being engaged, which is really hard in warm afternoons after you eat lunch. You kind of just want to doze off and take a nap. You got to fight that urge. And I will tell you what the programs here told me to tell you about long 3-hour labs when it's warm and you're tired. They told me to tell you tough shit. Buck up. Be a grown-up and do the 3-hour labs. You are going into careers for which you will have rotations and other clinical courses that go hours. And they want you used to being able to tolerate 3-hour labs in a warm afternoon. No sympathy. Okay? Buck up and do it. Are there any questions about that? This is how you succeed in this class, which has traditionally, it doesn't matter who's teaching it, a high attrition rate. You want to pass one lecture exam. You might want to write this down. And that lecture exam is lecture exam 2. Out of the 4 lecture exams, that is by far the easiest. You want to pass lecture exam 2 with a score of 69 or higher. Remember, and I talked about this in the first lecture, you have to pass a lecture exam to get a passing grade. It doesn't matter how much points you have. If you don't pass at least one lecture exam with a score of 69 or higher, you don't pass this class. The highest grade you can get is a D, which is not transferable into any program. Even if you have enough points for a B, if you don't pass a lecture exam, the highest grade I can give you is a D. And that goes for all anatomy sections at this college. Are we clear?
Just a curiosity question.
Yeah.
What I know you've explained the exams. What's your passing rate on exams? Do most people fail them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And here's the thing, and this is why I tell my Monday lab this on Monday. You have to be engaged. Even though it's a long 3-hour lab on a warm afternoon, you've got to stay engaged. If you are engaged and actually do what I tell you to do, this class is easy. You want to know what the proof of that is? Every semester I will have some students who listen to me and do what I tell them to do, and they have enough points for an A before the final. They still have to show up, that's why it's in part of the syllabus. If you don't show up to the final, highest grade I can give you is a B, even if you have enough points for an A. That's in the syllabus. Why do I have that? Because I have a handful of students every semester that kick ass so bad, it's embarrassing that this class is this easy, that a person can have an A before the final. And they do this because they're actually decent exam takers and they listen to me on how to study. And it's because the second part about how to pass this class is kick ass in lab. Pass lecture exam 2, you can flunk the other 3. Just flunk them in the 50s. Okay? You could still get a B in this class, flunking lecture exams in the 50s, if you kick ass in lab. And the reason why you can kick ass in lab is because it's simple. There's only 2 things about kicking ass in lab. One is visual recognition. That's all this is. I point to it, you tell me what it is, And the second thing is you gotta spell it correctly. Visual recognition, spelling it correctly. Every note you take in this room should be notes of visual recognition, because that's all there is to anatomy lab. That's it. Well, how do you kick ass in lab? Your lab quiz is 25 points. Here's 25 blanks. In 2 weeks, this is what's going to be out on the counter. I supply this to you. There's going to be 25 questions of images on slides. You just got to visually recognize it and spell it correctly on one of the 25 blanks. That's pretty simple, isn't it? But this is how you kick ass in lab. The lab quiz is 25 points, 25 blanks. But each of 5 lab exams is 50 points. Because it's got 25 stations, and each station has an A and B question. Can you see that? Each one is worth a point. 50 points, except this. Each lab exam has 5 extra credit stations. A and B, that's 10 extra credit points. If you study with an appropriate sense of urgency, you should score every lab exam in the 50s. And it's only worth 50 points. You don't even have to score 90% of the points. 90% of the points is a 54 out of 50. You get 75% of the points. That's a 45, that's still an A. Do you see how you kick ass in lab? And so these students will flunk 3 out of the 4 lecture exams in the 50s. Pass lecture exam 2 with a 70. Score in the 50s on all the lab exams. They still end up with a B, even though they flunked 3 lecture exams. This right here, what I'm describing for you, this is critical thinking that every student should be doing when you walk into that first class. This is your first class for lab. You should be evaluating, how do I do this so I don't have to repeat this? Unless you love school and taking the same class 3 times. Anybody love doing that? Then don't. Okay, everybody get lab? Now look at the lab schedule. We're gonna cover histology today, and also if you have your laboratory objectives, get that out too. Because this is your best friend. I hate these new whiteboards, unless your pens are brand spanking new, and they're so faint. This is your best friend. Everyone should have one. The reason why it's your best friend is because it's your limiting list. There's going to be some exceptions where I'm going to take some things out and add some things in, so that all the sections are about the same. But I did not have this when I was a student, when I took anatomy at San Jose State and UCLA, and it was everything is fair game. You think that anatomy class is actually hard? Yes. No one had an A before the final in those classes. But here's a limiting list. If it's not in there, I can't ask it. You'll see even today how this is your best friend. If you don't take advantage of your best friend, you are lacking in critical thinking. Everybody got it? Use it to your advantage. Well, on the schedule, it's in the far right column. Those are the page numbers that refers to this booklet, Laboratory Objectives. Does everybody see that on the schedule? Well, today we'll cover histology. Don't worry about page 4. That's actually lecture material. And next week we're going to cover page 6, integumentary system. And those 2 pages is what constitutes the quiz you will have in 2 weeks from today. Any questions on that? And then we're gonna go down and study the bones. We're gonna get to organ systems, because again, organ systems is how these classes are organized. Then we'll do the muscular system in 1 week. And after September 20th, we'll be caught up with all the other labs. But notice how we have a little bit of buffer time between the time I talk about the skeletal system and then before we have September 27th, the lab exam on the skeletal system. Everybody see that? That, a little bit of time is where you want to go to the open lab to study the bones, if you want to score in the 50s. Okay? And you can just see that all the way down the line. When we are starting out this late, until we get to the end because of Thanksgiving, we're basically having an exam every week once we get going. Okay? You have to be managing your time well when you have those exams, especially because I don't want anyone to have to take a lecture exam or lab exam on the same day. That means there's going to be consecutive weeks where it's going to be lab exam, lecture exam, lab exam. Lab exam, lecture exam, lab exam. You think managing your time might be a little bit important? All right, let's talk about, we already talked about the lab points. Are there any questions about the points in lab? 275. You add it to the 4 lecture exams, that's why the whole course is 675. It's no weighted points, they're all weighted the same. All right, a couple things to take note on with the schedule. You can see a little hashtag, # on October 4th, 11th, and 18th. That is where we're going to be doing organ dissections. And that's where this one lab policy near the bottom counts, where it says no food, drink, or open-toed shoes. You can bring water into the room if you want, but it should be something that seals, like this. That's okay to have in your room. Once we're dissecting though, I would put the stuff underneath the desk because you don't want juice splashing on that thing. Does that make sense? But don't bring anything else other than here. When we take a break, if I see some droopy eyelids, I'll tell you to go out and get a Rockstar or a Monster, Venti, or whatever. Just get something to pep you up a little bit. But you got to drink it before you come back in here. Go get it, guzzle it as you're walking back to class. Make sure it's empty before you come back in. You can leave it outside the door, but I'd be really careful because if you actually look outside the door, there's piles of bird shit out there. And they like to roost right there, and they'll probably leave you a little gift on your cup. But on those hashtags weeks, you do have to have shoes on because we are going to have scalpels and scissors out when we're doing dissections. Are we clear? Even though it says that for the whole semesters, no open-toed shoes in lab, this is a dry lab. We have plastic models. They're not going to hurt your feet. So I'm not a stickler for not wearing sandals or flip-flops in lab, except for those 3 weeks. Because the college insurance won't cover you if you get cut on feet that was in an open sandal. I'm supposed to prevent you from doing that, and that's where some of these penalties are inclusive. And these penalties, people, this is college, all right? These policies are for grown-ups, not for children. Spelling errors. If you misspell something, it has to be obvious you knew the answer, you just misspelled it. Some people, it's like, I don't even know if you know the answer, then the whole thing is wrong. But if it is misspelled by a letter or two, you get half credit. Why is that important? Like in your brain, you have a cerebrum and a cerebellum, and it's only a couple letters apart. That's why you gotta spell it correctly. Does this make sense? Taking exam in another period. This is where you're at a disadvantage. Can I give you a little bit of advice for those who are serious about your career goal? If you are ever registering for a class, for an important prerequisite class, and it has 2 lab sections like Monday and Wednesday, always register for the earlier one on Monday. Always. Why? You get a flat tire on your way to a lab exam. I'll go, just come Wednesday. No problem. You get a flat tire coming to this lab exam, you can't go into a time machine and go back to Monday. Does everybody see what I'm saying? So from now on, register for the earlier one. It is to your advantage. It gives you more flexibility. Now, if that happens to you here, your only option is to take one of 2 lab exams on Thursday with another teacher. Won't be mine. And because I don't have that person's key, they have to grade it. And so the penalty for that, which is the second bullet, if you have to take it with another teacher, you can't do the extra credit. Nothing over here. It's only now out of 50 possible points, not 60. Are we clear? That's what that means. Second bullet. Third bullet. I'm going to expressly make sure you know this, because 2 students on the middle table right here on Monday left early. I covered this for them, and they just thought we were children. Where, oh no, he said it, doesn't mean it. When they do their lab quiz, they're going to be surprised with -5 points on their lab quiz. Everybody got it? Policies are for grown-ups. Actually, college is for grown-ups. On exam day, are you going to be tired? Doesn't matter, you got to do the 3-hour lab. Both lab exam and lecture exam. And if you just say, I'm too tired, especially when I have to teach it, especially when I have to grade it after I'm done teaching lab, I'm going to knock 10 points out of whatever exam you took that day and didn't show up for lab. Does everybody understand the 4th bullet? Are there any questions about that? That has been requested, that policy, by the health programs. And then we have 2 labs that we're going to look at the cadavers, September 27th and November 15th. That has a little 2 up arrows. Again, because the college has spent the money for it, if you don't show up for that, that's also -10 points. Any questions on the penalties and lab policies? Most of the time I'm very reasonable if someone communicates with me early that they have to leave. Yeah, I know life happens, and if it's not a big deal, that's fine. These 2, they just kind of snuck out. That's not okay. Everybody know the difference? But I will penalize you when we're doing the dissection labs and people have to do the dishes. If they leave dishes for their lab partners, yeah, I'm gonna ding you. Any questions? And I've had students request that I ding them. Okay. Schedule, lab points, lab policies, laboratory objectives. Go ahead and open up this guy. And yeah, my name is on there. I'm the last one here, the other 2 are long gone. Yeah, 2012, it's like, man, it's kind of old. Well, hey people, we've known about this anatomy for centuries. Okay, everything I'm teaching has been known for 400 years. Okay, so it's really not that much reason to change. But if you look at page 4, that is lecture material for lecture exam 1. So that's not we're not really going to be covering that during lab. But we are gonna cover today lab, page 5, and then next week, page 6. And the lab quiz is gonna be on 5 and 6. Everybody got that? Okay. All right. Are there any questions about the setup of the lab, points and policy? Where's the assignments? If everyone can get your 3x5 cards and pass it and make a pile of it in the center table. And then the students that would like an ad code, come on up here and get to it. You can go ahead and pause the recordings. We're going to take a break now.